Chapter 1. There was smoke everywhere. People were screaming, and I couldn't see very far in front of me. As I ran out of the burning, two-story house, I called out Mom, Dad into the smoky blackness. I saw a flash of silver and felt a sting on my cheek. With fear and adrenaline coursing through me, I pushed away from whatever was there and continued calling out for my family. Tessa, run. I heard my mother yell. A loud crash and frightening growls quickly followed it. I backpedaled and searched for a way out of the smoke and chaos. The sleek black of my car reflected in the fire, and I hurried to it. After fumbling with the keys, I finally got the car unlocked and jumped inside. When the car roared to life, I put it in drive and sped off down the dirt road, all the while still hearing my name being called Tessa. 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 I yelped and fell off my bed as Mrs. Underwood banged on my door and continued to yell my name to get me up in time to go to school. Tessa Parker, get up or I'll drag you out of that bed myself. Mrs. Underwood yelled again. I don't know why she bothered. I wouldn't be staying in this boarding house or this town for long anyway, but when I told her that, she ignored it and insisted I go to Hollows Creek High School. After telling her I was awake and pulling my aching body off the wood floor, I began to make my way to my bedroom's adjoining bathroom slowly. As I made my way there, I tried to shake the remnants of the memory from my mind. I'd been reliving that nightmare ever since that horrible night 8 months ago. But that's a story I didn't want to dwell on right now. As I passed my dresser, I stopped and looked at the small mirror sitting on it and groaned again. I wasn't bad looking. I was 5 feet 5 inches with a nice tan, a body that was balanced thanks to werewolf jeans, icy blue eyes, and long, black hair. Why did I groan? Because my usually straight hair was everywhere. I'll fix it later, I mumbled to myself as I closed the bathroom door. After taking a shower and brushing my teeth, I put on my ripped jeans, a black V-neck tank top, and my leather jacket. I left my hair slightly curly and put it in a high ponytail, then applied some makeup to my face to cover the scar on my left cheek. I grabbed my pack, my credit card, and $200 in cash, along with my car keys and my small stack of clothes, since I wouldn't be coming back here, not that I would tell Mrs. Underwood that. I ran down the steps to the kitchen. Mrs. Underwood had just set down a tray of warm sugar cookies, and I grabbed 2 before she could hit my hand with a spoon. I smiled playfully and said goodbye. I raced through the front door, got into my black 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback with the white stripe down the middle, and sped off to my new school. Time to blend in with the human world once more. Chapter 2. Shocking, I know, but being a werewolf means constant hiding when in public. Any strong emotions, and our eyes change color or our teeth and claws elongate. There are 2 different types of werewolves. One is the regular werewolves. This group consists of the alpha, betas, and omegas. These wolves form the actual pack and are very numerous. The second type of werewolf is the rogues. They are werewolves who have either left the pack or have been removed because of a betrayal of the pack. They never really bothered the packs for one reason: guardian wolves. These werewolves were once respected and cherished protectors of packs everywhere. That was until 50 years ago, when the alphas began to see them as a threat and started to push them away. The guardian wolves were seen as dangerous because they were bigger, stronger, and faster than normal wolves, even the alphas. They were identified as guardian wolves because of their coat, which was a solid color, but had a white design that started at their left front paw and spread across their body in what looked like a vine pattern, and their eyes, which were bright blue. This is the type of wolf I am. After my family was attacked by an alpha, I was the only one able to escape. This made me the last known guardian wolf. Now every alpha is after me. Some want me destroyed, while others want to use me against their enemies. I never stay in one place long, because it risks me getting caught, which is why after school today I'll be hitting the road. I know I'm in a pack's territory and will need to leave soon. After parking my car in a lonely space in a corner of the school parking lot, I slowly made my way across the parking lot to the front of the building. As expected, the lingering students in front of the building gave me odd looks. It was beginning to anger me so much that when I passed by a red-haired girl, who just kept staring, I yelled, "What are you looking at?" She jumped and scowled, "You're rude." I heard her mumble as she scurried away. After I found the office and told the secretary my name, she typed in a few things, and I found out Mrs. Underwood had registered me into the system as her niece. The plump, middle-aged woman handed me my class schedule. After politely saying goodbye, I left the office and headed to my first period, world history, which I was looking forward to. Before I could even get close to the classroom, a scent reached me that I had been dreading since I got here. It was werewolves. There were at least 5, and from judging the more powerful scent, one was an alpha and a strong one too. I quickly jumped into the nearest room just as they got within earshot. Derek said he caught the scent yesterday near the western perimeter and said it's female, one of them said. Judging by the way he spoke, he must have been speaking to the alpha, but as an equal, he was likely a beta. Did he track the scent? The alpha asked. Yeah, but it led to a human boarding house, and he couldn't look further in case the owner got suspicious. The beta said. The alpha chuckled. Of course, she would hide amongst humans. She knows we won't cause a scene and expose ourselves. While he was still talking, I slowly peered around the corner to see who I was up against. I wish I hadn't. He was about 6 feet 3 inches with black hair that hung in his eyes, which were a forest green color, a dark tan, and a strong build that showed even through the shirt he was wearing. My wolf stirred with recognition. My mate was in front of me. As I stood there looking at him, I didn't realize they had gotten closer. I quickly jumped back into the room. When they passed by, the alpha suddenly stopped walking and sniffed the air. He turned his head sharply towards me, and his eyes changed into a brilliant gold. He began to advance, and I panicked. As he made his way towards me, I slammed the door shut and locked it. I ran to the nearest window and tried to open it. It was locked, so I grabbed one of the desks and threw it at the window. As it shattered, the door shuddered on its hinges. I perched on the windowsill, and just before jumping, I looked back to hear the alpha yelling while his pack members tried to calm him down and get him to quit banging on the door. When a crack appeared in the door, I took that as my cue and jumped out the window just as the door splintered off the hinges. After jumping, I transformed into my horse-sized, black and white wolf, grabbed my bag in my jaws, and raced into the nearest section of woods. I barely made it a mile into the woods when I heard howls. Apparently, all around me, the alpha had told his pack to corner me. As they closed in, I stood to my full height and let out the most powerful growl I could manage. Some wolves faltered in their advance towards me, both because of my size and the growl. Suddenly, a growl matching my own echoed through the woods. I quickly turned around to face the alpha. As I did, I felt a sharp pain in my back leg. When I turned around and saw a dart in my left back leg, I looked up to see a man holding a tranquilizer gun. As my vision began to blur and I stumbled, I turned to see the alpha in his human form, now dressed in simple shorts. As everyone crowded around to take me away, I barely heard the alpha say, "Don't hurt her," just as everything went black. Chapter 3. I woke with a start. My surroundings weren't recognizable to me. I was sitting in a king-size bed with an oversized comforter, silk sheets, and a nightstand with a lamp and clock next to it. There was a giant dresser in the back corner, a 50-inch flat-screen TV, and a large walk-in closet filled with clothes and shoes. I got out of bed and felt something smooth brush against me. I looked down and saw that someone had put me in a silk nightgown when I was passed out. It was only then that the events of yesterday came back to me. I panicked and ran into the closet. I grabbed a pair of jeans, combat boots, a t-shirt, and my leather jacket, which I was surprised to see since it should have been ruined after I shifted. I then grabbed my bag and ran for the window. I tried to open it, but it was locked. Of course, I thought to myself. They wouldn't have left it open when they knew I would just run away, and I couldn't break it because the noise would attract attention. Not giving up, I headed to the door and tried it, but no such luck there. Damn it. I yelled, getting upset, and I kicked the door. My wolf was also angry. She wanted out because she knew that in our wolf form, I could break the door easily and fight through the guards and traps on the other side without much trouble. While throwing my tantrum and trying to fight my wolf, I barely heard the sound of a key entering the door. I backed up and got ready to defend myself. My wolf prepared herself, too, in case I let my guard down so she could come out and fight. When the door opened, all thoughts of fighting ceased for my wolf. She was suddenly calm, and no one would have thought she wanted to harm anyone here moments ago. I, on the other hand, stayed in my fighting stance because not only did my mate walk in, but my alpha mate. He smirked, coming at me as if I were a child in the middle of a tantrum. "Do you really think you can fight your way past me?" he asked while keeping the smirk. His voice was powerful, profound, and it held all the authority an alpha's voice should have. "I was planning to, and I'm pretty sure I can," I replied, trying to stay focused and show him I was not someone who would follow commands. He chuckled, "Wow, you're tough, strong-willed, and stubborn." "I like that," he said. He had an accent I couldn't place. As he continued talking, he looked at me with an expression that frustrated me even more. "What's your name, and why am I here?" I asked in an authoritative tone, making it clear that I meant business. "My apologies. I am Gabriel Blackwood, soon-to-be alpha of the Blood Moon Pack." "And your name is?" he answered with a gesture of his hand. The Blood Moon Pack was the most significant and most substantial in the world, with over 300 pack members in the U.S. and a territory that spread over all of Minnesota, as well as North Dakota and South Dakota. It was also said that the family had territory in Europe. Even if I did escape, they owned so much land and had too many allies that he would eventually find me. Even though I knew escape was impossible, I still tried. "My name is Tessa Parker, and it has been an honor to meet you, but I have places to be," I replied as I walked towards the door. As soon as he realized I was serious, all the friendliness left him. Like any typical alpha, when angered, his eyes turned black, and he slammed the door shut hard enough to put a crack in it. Then he pushed me back against the wall, making me bump my head. "Ow! What was that for?" I yelled. He grabbed my hands and held them above my head, making me immobile. "You are not leaving here," he shouted with a tone meant to command, but since I was a guardian wolf, it didn't work on me. I struggled to get free. When I finally managed to get my legs between us, I called on my wolf for strength and kicked Gabriel hard enough to make him stumble and fall, letting go of me in the process. I took this opportunity and raced for the door, but as soon as my fingers touched the handle, Gabriel grabbed my ankle. "Please, Tessa, don't leave." "I'm sorry, my wolf acted out, not me. Please, don't leave me." I turned back to look at Gabriel. His eyes were green again, and I saw the regret in them. He truly felt sorry, and I knew he was being honest. His wolf was stronger than his human self, and it had taken control. Then it hit me. I'd spent my life running from alphas. Why not hide from them by staying with a soon-to-be alpha and hope he doesn't find out about my secret? And besides, he was starting to grow on me. I looked him in the eyes and almost caved at the sincerity I hadn't seen in 8 months. But I couldn't show weakness. Still needing to stay stubborn, I said, "Fine, I'll stay, but only because I like this place." I gestured around the room to emphasize my point. He smiled and laughed a genuine laugh. "Thank you, and I'm glad you will stick around and not run off," he said while letting go of my ankle and getting up off the floor. It was then that I realized the accent was British. When he got up and looked at me, I saw that he really trusted me, and I felt my protective wall around my heart crack a little. All because of my respectful British alpha. Chapter 4. After our argument in my room, Gabriel thought it best to give me some space for the day so I could get used to my surroundings. After he left to discuss my arrival with his father, I took the opportunity to look around the house. The room I was in was on the 2nd story, along with 5 others just like it, 2 public bathrooms, and a game room. I spent longer than necessary checking out. On the 1st floor, there was a large kitchen with a substantial bar off to one side, and a 2-door refrigerator stocked with food and drinks. There was also an island in the center surrounded by bar stools. The kitchen then led into a large dining room with a mahogany table and 10 chairs. The large foyer opened to a living room, and this is where I spent the rest of the day watching shows on the theater-sized TV. By the time Gabriel left his office, it was almost 9 o'clock. When he walked in, he studied me for a few moments. Then he crossed the room and helped me up from the couch. "You looked tired, so I'm bringing you to your room so you can sleep," he said in that calm accent. I felt a little foolish for reacting earlier, and a faint blush warmed my cheeks. When we reached my room, he set me down and stepped back. We stood there for a few moments, unsure what to say to each other. "Well, I best be heading to my room." "Good night, Tessa," he said, and as he turned to walk away, I felt nervous at the thought of being alone. "Wait," I called, grabbing his wrist. As soon as I did that, a quiet, surprising calm passed between us, and judging by the look on his face, he felt it too. I quickly let go, though I didn't want to. "Can you stay with me?" "It's a new place, and I don't want to be alone," I asked, not wanting to seem weak, but realizing it was the only thing I could think to ask. He looked taken aback by my question, then nodded. "Of course I will," he said softly, and I managed a small smile. He reached up as if to touch my face, then hesitated and lowered his hand. "What happened?" he asked gently. I couldn't answer. I shook my head and turned away. He let go of my arm and gave me space. The memory was too painful to share at that moment. "Not tonight," I whispered, fighting back tears. He nodded in understanding and stepped back. I climbed into bed and tried to get comfortable. After a while, I heard him sit on a chair across the room and his breathing even out. I could tell he was staying nearby to watch over me, and that small fact steadied my nerves. I told myself I would wait to explain the fire and my family's death, and when I did, I would change enough details to protect myself for a while. I cried myself to sleep, haunted by nightmares of flames and a black wolf with red eyes. When I woke the next morning, Gabriel wasn't in bed, which wasn't unusual since it was already 9. I made my way to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. My hair was a mess and my eyes were puffy from crying. I grabbed my makeup bag and applied blush and mascara until I looked presentable. After changing into dark jeans and a t-shirt, I went down to the kitchen to find something to eat. As I walked down the stairs, I heard laughter coming from the kitchen. 2 guys who looked about my age sat at the island. When I entered, they stood and nodded respectfully. The one closest to me stepped forward and introduced himself. "Hello, Alpha. My name is Damon Cooper, and this is my twin brother Derek." That's when I remembered him from school. "You're Gabriel's beta," I exclaimed, remembering the authoritative tone he'd used at school. "It's nice to finally meet you. I'm Tessa Parker," I said, extending my hand. He shook it and sat down again. Derek came around the island and shook my hand too, and then I remembered something else from school. "You're the one who tracked me to the boarding house," I said, annoyed that he had been the one to find me. He just chuckled. "Yeah, but I must say your scent is different from other wolves," he said. "Now that you mention it, Derek, it is different," Damon added, turning to face me. Both of them had curious expressions. "Great, how was I going to keep this hidden?" Before I could answer, Gabriel walked in, saving me from responding. I went over to him, and he gave me a quick, friendly hug. When I glanced over his shoulder, Derek was smiling, but Damon had a look that told me the earlier conversation wasn't over between him and me. As Gabriel and I moved toward the kitchen, I could feel Damon's gaze on my back the whole time. Now I didn't have to worry about alphas wanting to kill me, but I had a curious future beta to contend with as well. Great. Chapter 5. The rest of the day went quietly after my run-in with Damon and Derek. Gabriel and I spent the time together in the living room, watching TV and laughing. Even though I was trying not to grow attached, it was becoming difficult. He always put me first, made me laugh, and never pressed me about the scar, which I appreciated. Later, as we were walking toward my room, he suddenly brought up something I wasn't prepared for. "You'll need to meet the pack soon," he said, looking straight ahead. The words made me stop in my tracks. "You can't be serious," I exclaimed. "I am. My father is about to return to Europe, and before he leaves, he wants to know you'll be a good mate for me and a good leader for this pack." His tone was firm, as if daring me to argue, but I wouldn't back down. What if I'm not ready? What if he thinks I'm not cut out to be your mate or the pack's alpha? What if I don't even want to be alpha? My voice rose with each question until I was yelling. As the words spilled out, I realized they were true. I didn't want to lead a pack. Deep down, I feared failing them, just as I believed I had failed my family. Gabriel remained calm, though I noticed his eyes darkening. Then, before I could retreat, he stepped forward swiftly, cupped my face gently in his hands, and made me look at him. "You are ready, Tessa. You're strong, fast, and smart, everything an alpha should be. I don't care what my father says. You're my mate, and I know you will be great," he said with conviction. I searched his eyes and saw he meant every word. Without thinking, I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him. In that moment, all my fears melted away. He stiffened at first, then relaxed, pulling me closer. His hands rested gently at my waist, and it felt as though a surge of energy passed between us. The kiss deepened, filled with warmth and reassurance. He lifted me effortlessly and carried me toward my room, our bond growing stronger with each heartbeat. When he placed me carefully on the bed, he braced himself on his elbows so as not to crush me. Our kiss slowed, more tender now, and I let my hands rest against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. For the first time in a long while, I felt safe. But then he pulled back slightly, brushing his hand along my cheek. "Not tonight. Not until after you meet the pack," he said softly. I hesitated, then nodded, respecting his choice. He smiled, and I returned it. He pressed a gentle kiss to my lips before lying on his back. I curled against him, resting my head on his chest. We stayed like that until I drifted off, not to nightmares this time, but to peaceful dreams, dreams of Gabriel and me together. Chapter 6. When I woke the next morning, Gabriel was still asleep. I tried to slip quietly out of bed, but before I could move far, his arm wrapped around my waist. "Where are you going?" he asked sleepily. I turned to face him, chuckling as I ran a hand through his messy dark hair. "Just going to shower and get ready for school." That woke him up completely. "Oh no, I forgot about school," he exclaimed, leaping out of bed and rushing from the room, muttering to himself about alarms and being forgetful. I couldn't help but laugh before heading into the bathroom to get ready. After showering and grabbing my bag, I made my way downstairs. Gabriel trailed behind me, and when I sensed him about to catch me, I jumped the last few steps and landed smoothly at the bottom. His laugh echoed through the hall as I smirked back at him. Outside, I paused to take in the view. The house was surrounded by woods, peaceful and wild all at once. It felt right to be there, especially when Gabriel came up and wrapped his arms around me. "Where's the garage?" I asked, breaking the silence. "This way," he said, leading me to the northern part of the village. When we arrived, I almost squealed with joy. My Mustang sat shining in the center of the garage. "I drove it back after finding your keys," Gabriel explained. "Your engine had some problems, but one of my mechanics fixed it with original parts. We cleaned it up too. It should run perfectly now." Overwhelmed, I hugged him tightly, then looked up and pressed a grateful kiss to his lips. "Thank you. No one else ever had the right parts. I don't know what I'd do if it had been stolen." "You're welcome. We had the parts because most cars here are classics." He gestured around, and I saw rows of vintage muscle cars. Only a few newer models stood out. "Which one is yours?" I asked. He pointed to a sleek black 2013 Camaro. "Nice car," I said, circling it. "But older cars will always have my heart." "Well, I bet mine could beat yours any day," he teased, his accent thickening. "I'll take that challenge." We both jumped into our cars, engines roaring. The Mustang purred under my touch, and the Camaro growled behind me. Without a glance, I sped off. Soon, Gabriel was right at my bumper, grinning and waving when I glanced at the mirror. I pushed faster, but on a sharp turn, I left just enough space for him to slip through and take the lead. "No way," I shouted. I fought to reclaim it, and as the town came into view, I surged forward again. We tore into the school parking lot, startling students who quickly scrambled out of the way. Only the other wolves laughed at the spectacle. With one last push, I slid into a spot just a foot ahead of Gabriel. "I won," he declared smugly. "No, I did. By a foot." I shot back, folding my arms. Damon and Derek arrived just in time. "Well," Damon said, grinning, "she was ahead of you, Alpha." "Sorry, but Tessa won." Gabriel glared, but they only laughed harder. Muttering under his breath, he walked away. When he was gone, Derek smirked at Damon. "Pay up." I said she'd win. Grumbling, Damon handed him $20, muttering about tuning the Camaro. "You bet on us?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Of course. No one ever beats Gabriel in a race, not even his dad, and he races in Europe," Derek said as we walked toward school. Classes passed quickly, math with Damon, then English, French, and animal sciences. Teachers here were wolves too, tasked with keeping us in control if emotions or powers flared. My excuse for missing classes was that I'd been with my cousins, Damon and Derek, catching up. By lunch, I sat with Gabriel, Damon, Derek, and two girls who were introduced as Alexandria and Valerie, Damon and Derek's mates. Alexandria, tall with auburn hair and hazel eyes, was human. She'd run away from a difficult home life and found safety with Damon. Their bond had kept her there ever since. Soon, she would go through the ritual to become a wolf, though never as strong as one born to it. Valerie's story was heavier. Born into a rogue pack, she had grown up fighting for survival. She had lost her siblings young, built her own den when she had no place to stay, and hardened herself through struggle. Strong and resilient, she was now one of the pack's best fighters. She had barely survived her old pack's betrayal before Derek found her and brought her to safety. Listening to Valerie's journey made me want to cry, but I held it back. Later in class, Valerie asked gently, "Tessa, where did you get your scar?" Gabriel looked at me, too, waiting for an answer. I took a deep breath. About 6 months ago, an alpha attacked my family. He thought we were rogues trying to take his territory. They set fire to our house. My brothers were killed, and so were my parents. One wolf tried to attack me, and that's how I got this scar. I touched my cheek, forcing the painful memories back. My mother's last words were for me to run. I escaped, but I never found my twin brother. The scar reminds me of what happened and why I need to stay cautious. Valerie's eyes welled with tears, but before anything more could be said, the bell rang. I rushed out, drove back to the house, and sat alone in my room. Half an hour later, Gabriel came in. "Tessa? Are you okay?" he asked softly. The concern in his eyes broke me. I cried, and he pulled me into his arms. "It's okay. Let it out." "I promise I'll find that alpha and make him pay," he said firmly. Exhausted, I finally drifted off in his embrace. For the first time, I felt the heavy wall around my heart begin to crumble. Chapter 7. I spent the next day at home because Gabriel believed I needed a break from people. I mainly stayed in the bedroom, but later wandered into the game room to play skee-ball for a while. About 3 hours before Gabriel was supposed to come home from school, I decided to go for a run. I hadn't let my wolf out since joining the Blood Moon pack, and the restless energy inside me was growing. I headed into the woods behind the house and shifted. Once my wolf form took over, I stretched and then dashed through the trees. Some wolves on patrol gave me curious looks, but quickly recognized me and greeted me with respect through the mind link. Not long after, I noticed another wolf running alongside me, a large gray one. I stopped, and he did too. Shifting back, I saw a man with peppered hair and sharp features. His eyes gave him away. They were Gabriel's eyes. "Alpha Blackwood, it's an honor to meet you," I said, bowing my head. "You must be Tessa." "Gabriel has spoken much about you," he replied, his accent even stronger than his son's. We talked for a while, and though he kept his words calm, his gaze told me he understood more about me than he let on. He knew my secret, and as an alpha, he could sense the truth. Instead of treating me like a threat, he promised protection. He explained that other alphas were forming a powerful alliance to hunt me, but with his pack and Blood Moon together, there was hope. Before leaving, he urged me to trust Gabriel and call for help if danger came. Then he shifted and vanished into the forest. When I returned home, I found Damon, Derek, and their mates in the kitchen. Seeing how well they matched, I felt a pang of envy. They had endured challenges, but found happiness. I wondered if Gabriel and I could ever have a life that touched so normal. Gabriel arrived soon after. I brushed him off when he asked where I was going, saying I needed a shower. He let it go and turned to talk business with Damon. Later, I emerged to find a crimson dress laid out on the bed with a note, Put this on and meet me outside. Love, Gabriel. The dress shimmered with a silver star brooch, its design beautiful and unique. Smiling, I put it on, left my hair loose, and slipped outside. Gabriel was waiting in a white shirt, jeans, and boots. He had prepared a dinner beneath the stars: roast lamb, potatoes, peas, and chocolate cake for dessert. His thoughtfulness touched me deeply. Afterward, we walked along a trail and asked each other questions. I learned about his family, his time in Britain, and his upcoming role as Alpha. He, in turn, asked about my trust issues. When he asked if I trusted him, I realized I did. I admitted it, and he smiled before pulling me close. But before the moment could settle, a voice rumbled from the shadows. Dozens of rogues stepped out, their eyes gleaming. Gabriel immediately shielded me. You are in pack territory. Leave now and no harm will come to you, Gabriel warned in his alpha voice. The leader only laughed before shifting into a wolf and leaping at him. Chapter 8. Before the rogue could strike, Gabriel leapt aside, shifting into his wolf form just in time. The clearing filled with snarls as the rogues surrounded him. I stepped back into the brush, heart racing, watching him fend off several at once. Gabriel! I cried when the leader lunged and sank his teeth into Gabriel's side. Blood darkened his black fur, and his pained growl tore at me. The others piled on, and for a moment, it looked like they might overwhelm him. Something inside me snapped. My wolf surged forward, and I shifted. A growl rumbled from me so deeply the ground seemed to quiver. The rogues turned, baring their teeth, but I didn't flinch. They came at me all at once, knocking me down. Gabriel's faint voice called my name, urging me on. Strength welled up inside me, and I threw them off with such force that some hit trees and fell still. The leader shifted back, eyes narrowing. Guardian wolf, he snarled. I pounced, and we clashed with claws, teeth, and fury. Pain seared my side when he bit me, but then a strange clarity filled me. My senses sharpened beyond anything I'd felt before. When he charged again, I met him head-on, locking onto his neck until his struggles stopped. Dropping his lifeless body, I faced the rest. Fear flickered in their eyes. Leave now and never return, I warned through the mind link. Without hesitation, they scattered into the forest. I howled, victorious, but it was cut short when I saw Gabriel slumped against a tree. Shifting back, I rushed to him. Gabriel! I tried to hold him, but he pushed weakly away. Tessa, what are you? He whispered before collapsing. Panic gripped me. I called Damon through the link, and soon Gabriel's father, Derek, Valerie, Alexandria, and others arrived. They lifted Gabriel and carried him inside. Questions swirled, but Damon already knew. You're a guardian wolf, he said gently, explaining he discovered it after our earlier conversation. His calm acknowledgement stunned me, but I was grateful he'd kept my secret. When the doctor arrived, he explained that Gabriel's ribs had healed incorrectly and needed to be reset. Protective instinct flared in me, and I stood in the way. Valerie reminded me softly that without treatment, Gabriel would suffer forever. Reluctantly, I backed down, though every instinct screamed at me to protect him. As the doctor worked, I was taken to a cell lined with wolfsbane to keep me from interfering. Hearing Gabriel's screams tore me apart. Each cry from him drew a howl from me until my throat was raw. Alexandria passed by, tears streaming, and I pressed my head into her hand through the bars to comfort her as best I could. Hours later, when the worst was over, Valerie released me. Gabriel's asking for you, she said. I hurried to his side. He was pale, wrapped in bandages, his body trembling from the strain. Why didn't you tell me? He asked weakly. Tears blurred my vision. I was afraid. I didn't think you'd accept me or worse, that you'd use me. I wanted to tell you, but then everything happened. His hand brushed my cheek. I'm not angry. I suspected, but I wanted to hear it from you. Relief poured through me, and I kissed him gently. Rest now. You need your strength. I started to leave, but he stopped me. Tessa, will you stay? He shifted over, making space for me. I smiled and climbed beside him, careful of his injuries. His arm slid around me, and I lay my head against his chest, listening to his steady breaths until he drifted into sleep. For the first time in so long, I felt at peace. Chapter 9. The next few days passed quietly. I stayed with Gabriel while he healed, grateful that he still wanted to be close to me even after learning about guardian wolves. One afternoon, Gabriel asked me something unexpected. "Will you tell me a story?" "A story?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yes. It's been a boring day, and I'd like to hear one." I thought for a moment before smiling. "All right then. Have you ever heard how guardian wolves came to be?" He shook his head. I began. 300 years ago, there was a pack deep in the forests of England. One day, rogues attacked them. The alpha was killed, and his son took charge. A weak omega stepped forward and said, "Take the survivors and run. I'll hold them off." The young alpha hesitated, but then gathered the others and escaped. The omega, determined, lit a torch and threw it at the rogues, setting the grass ablaze. Many were driven back, but 4 remained and fought him. Though the omega was defeated, he had kept his promise, and the pack survived. Wounded, he dragged himself into the forest until he collapsed beneath a great tree, Yggdrasil, the tree of life. The tree had witnessed his bravery and spoke. "Young wolf, your courage will not go unnoticed. I grant you strength beyond all others. You will protect your pack as a guardian wolf." A drop of sap fell upon the omega, transforming him. He grew taller, stronger, and his fur carried vine-like markings. His eyes glowed bright blue as he rose, bowed to the tree, and howled. That day, the first guardian wolf was born. When I finished, I saw Gabriel watching me with pride and affection in his eyes. I smiled softly. "I love you, Gabriel." "I love you too, Tessa," he replied, pulling me close. Before the moment could deepen, growls and yelps echoed outside. We exchanged a glance, then rushed out. The clearing was chaos, wolves everywhere, all from the Blood Moon pack. At the center, something was throwing them off with surprising strength. I caught a familiar scent, one I hadn't smelled in 6 months. My heart leapt. "Stop. Don't attack. I know him," I shouted, pushing forward. The wolves backed off slightly, though they remained tense. The wolf in the middle was panting, eyes darting. His fur carried the vine-like patterns of a guardian wolf. "Styles," I whispered, my eyes filling with tears. He froze, then, through the mind link, I heard him. "Tessa?" Emotion overwhelmed me. He shifted and pulled me into a fierce hug. "It's really you." I followed your scent, but didn't believe it could be true. I looked him over, his hair longer, his frame lean but strong. He had survived. Gabriel came to my side, but Styles growled protectively, shifting back into wolf form to shield me. "Styles, stop. This is Gabriel, he's my mate." I pleaded. Styles froze. "An alpha?" "Tess, you know what alphas do to us." "Not him," I said firmly. "This pack is different. They've protected me." He studied me, then nodded reluctantly. Turning to Gabriel, he held out his hand. "I'm sorry. It's hard to trust alphas." Gabriel smiled and shook his hand. "No hard feelings. Let's get you some clothes." Styles laughed lightly, realizing he was still unclothed, and followed Gabriel. But before going inside, he turned back and hugged me again. "I'm glad you're safe," he said, smiling warmly before leaving with Gabriel. Tears welled in my eyes, but Valerie was suddenly beside me, wrapping me in her arms. "It's all right. He's back now. And besides, we've got to get ready for my birthday party," she said with a grin. I laughed through the tears. Valerie always knew how to lift my spirits. Together, we headed inside, my heart lighter than it had been in months. Chapter 10. It only took me 10 minutes to get ready for the party. I wore a light blue blouse with black jeans and flats, while Valerie spent longer deciding between a black dress or a red blouse with pants. After some playful back and forth, she settled on the blouse with a leather jacket, which suited her perfectly. It was her birthday after all. She was turning 18, officially joining the pack. As we left my room, Gabriel and Styles were waiting at the top of the stairs. Styles had cleaned up nicely in a gray t-shirt and ripped jeans, his messy black hair falling over his blue eyes. He gave me a sheepish smile. Derek loaned me the clothes. I just left my hair how it usually is, he admitted. I cupped his face and smiled. You look great. Just like before the accident. For a moment, we both thought about the past before he hugged me. Gabriel caught my eye and gave me a warm smile, wrapping his arm around my waist. He wore a navy blue t-shirt, jeans, and snakeskin cowboy boots. Shall we head to the party? Gabriel asked. Sure thing, Govna, Styles said in a fake British accent, making everyone laugh, even Gabriel. Outside, Valerie went to find Derek, and Styles hurried toward the food, leaving me with Gabriel. So, today's when Valerie officially becomes part of the pack? I asked. Yeah, when a wolf turns 18, they join the adults for a hunt. That's the tradition. So since I'm only 17, I won't get to go? Normally no, but since you're my mate, I'll let you and Styles join. Consider it a welcome. He smiled before heading off to find his father. The celebration was lively with cakes, music, and laughter. I danced with both Gabriel and Styles, and as the sun set, only 30 of us remained for the hunt. We shifted into wolf form and followed Alpha Blackwood deep into the forest. The elk herd was about 50 miles away, but around 15 miles in, I heard a faint grunting. Gabriel, what's that? I asked through the mind link. That's the old bull moose. Too big to hunt, even for us. He's dangerous, took down some teens years ago. No one's tried since, he replied. I smirked. No one's tried until now. Then I linked to Styles. Asterisk bull moose nearby. Ready to show them what we can do? The pack froze at my boldness. Tessa, no. Gabriel protested. Valerie and Derek also argued against it. Damon shook his head, agreeing. Alpha Blackwood stepped forward. Enough. We have a rule. If a wolf thinks they can take on something bigger, we let them. Gabriel looked furious, but while everyone argued, I tugged Styles aside. Come on. Let's show them. He grinned. Just like old times. Gabriel caught our plan, but instead of stopping me, his eyes glowed gold. Show them what my guardian mate can do, he said, his wolf clearly approving. Styles and I followed the moose's scent until we reached a clearing. He was enormous, scarred, and intimidating. You circle behind, drive him forward. I'll take the neck, I instructed. Styles vanished into the brush, then lunged at the moose's back leg, injuring him badly. The moose charged toward me, and I leaped out, clamping onto his neck with all my strength. In one decisive move, his body collapsed, lifeless. I held in triumph, and Styles joined me. The others rushed into the clearing, stunned at the sight of the fallen moose. Then cheers erupted. Gabriel stood at the back, smiling and shaking his head. I shifted and ran to him. He embraced me. How did you even manage that? Always take out a leg first, then strike where it counts, I teased. Meanwhile, Styles was surrounded by congratulations, and I overheard Damon groaning about losing a bet to Derek. We also took down 3 elk before returning to the compound, where everyone marveled at the moose. Gabriel promised to have it preserved as a reminder of the victory. That night, we feasted. Later, I helped Gabriel move my belongings into his room. We agreed it was better to share a space since we were already so close to each other. Dressed in simple clothes, I finally drifted into peaceful sleep, comforted by my pack, my mate, and my brother's return. Chapter 11. It's been a few days since Styles and I hunted the bull moose, and everyone is still congratulating us on it. True to his word, Gabriel had the moose stuffed and set in the pack house. I haven't seen much of Gabriel these last few days since he's getting ready for his Alpha coronation ceremony in about a week or 2. Alpha Blackwood went back to his pack in Europe the day after Valerie's birthday, but not before making sure I'd call him if we ever needed his help. I also found out that Gabriel, Damon, Derek, their mates, and I won't be returning to school since we were preparing to become the new leaders of the pack. Even Styles isn't going because he never started. I felt bad about not spending time with Gabriel, so I decided to hang around his office while he did some Alpha paperwork crap. The office was big. It features a large mahogany desk in front of a stained glass window depicting a night sky with a blood moon. One wall was lined with books, and a couch and 2 chairs were arranged around the room. At first, I lounged on the couch, and when I got bored, I sat at the desk and asked Gabriel what he was doing. And now I'm looking through the books. Every time I'd pick one up, I'd close with a nope or I was about to sit back down when a particular book caught my eye. I took it off the shelf and looked at the title. Supernaturals was all that the cover said. There are other supernaturals. I asked Gabriel. He spun in his chair to look at me. Of course. Did you really think we were the only ones? He asked, looking amused. I smirked, of course not. I was just making sure you knew, I told him, opening the book. The book was separated into 3 categories: rare, worse, and others. The were section came first. There were a lot. The common ones are werewolves, werelions, and werebears. There are other types, but they weren't extensively discussed. The others came next. This section consisted of fairies, merepeople, vampires, and many more. Vampires, it turns out, are bat-looking creatures who walk on 2 legs and live in the forests of Russia, but only attack animals. The rare section was last. It had only 3 creatures: unicorn, dragon, and phoenix. This was the most significant section yet. These creatures shared one thing, and that is that they all have a bond to a specific person or a supernatural being. They won't hatch, or in a unicorn situation, show themselves until their bond partner is near or touches their egg. As I read about the phoenix, I looked at the picture on the side that showed the phoenix's 3 stages of life, from an egg to an adult. As I looked at the egg, I began to feel like I'd seen it somewhere. Then I remembered and jumped up, running to Gabriel's desk. That's a phoenix egg, I exclaimed, pointing at the fiery orange egg sitting at the corner of the desk. Gabriel jumped at my sudden movements and almost fell backwards off the chair. Yes, it is. It's been in my family for generations. It's never hatched, so we believed it's a dud, he said while coming to stand beside me. They only hatch when their bond partner touches their egg. What made you think it was someone in your family? A fortune teller, an actual one, said that it was bonded to someone in this family, so we kept it, he said with a shrug. I went and leaned against the door. Well then, I guess whoever it is will be really lucky, I said, and began to examine my nails. There was a knock at the door, and, before I could move, someone threw open the door. Gabriel, we need. Valerie said before she saw me run into the desk and knock the phoenix egg over with my hand. Oh my God, Tessa, are you okay? Valerie came running towards me. I'm fine, I said as I got up, retrieved the egg, and placed it back on the stand. Gabriel chuckled along with Derek, who saw what had happened. What do you guys need? Gabriel asked them when he was done. We wanted to ask permission to go to Minneapolis. I want to take Valerie out to dinner, Derek said as Valerie gazed up at him adoringly. Gabriel tapped his chin. That's a long drive, Derek. I know, and we might stay at a hotel tonight and head back tomorrow, which is why we need your permission. Well, I guess so. You two deserve it. Oh, thank you, Gabriel, Valerie said and gave him a big hug. Just then, a loud cracking sound sounded throughout the office. We all froze and glanced around. Then the sound came again, and I saw movement to my left and looked down at it. The phoenix egg was hatching. Gabriel saw it too and put his arm in front of me, and we began to back up slowly. Derek did the same with Valerie, and now we are all trapped in a corner with the boys in front of us. Then a piece of the eggshell fell off, and a purple eye stared back at us. With one movement of its head, the great egg fell apart, and a little phoenix was lying in front of us. It's about the size of a small chicken, but looks like a peacock. Its feathers were fire-like, with yellow on the bottom, gradually transforming to the blue of a very hot fire. It looked around the room before resting its gorgeous eyes on the 4 of us huddled in the corner. Slowly, it stood up from its position on the floor and stretched itself out. Right before our eyes, the phoenix grew. When it finally stopped growing, it was the size of a golden eagle. It let out a chirp and began to walk towards us. Slowly, the 4 of us circled it and headed for the door. When we reached it, Derek threw open the door, and we began to run for the front door. We ran outside and turned to face the door. The phoenix came walking out of the door and looked around. When it didn't see us, it began to chirp as if looking for its mother. But instead of hearing chirps, I listened to a voice. Tessa? Where are you? It was a female voice, and I realized the phoenix was bonded to me. I broke free of Gabriel and raced through the crowd that had gathered to see what was happening. When she saw me, she spread out her wings, which had to be 7 foot in length, and flew over to me. She landed in front of me and looked up at me. "Hello, Tessa. I've been waiting years to meet you." Then sparks flew from her body, and suddenly she was surrounded by blue flames. But instead of being harmed, she looked fine, almost as if the fire were a natural part of her. She walked closer to me, and all I could feel was a warmth from the fire. She flapped her wings and flew up towards my head, where she just flew around. The others gathered around and looked on in awe. "A blue phoenix. Rarest of the rare," the oldest pack member said. I looked up at the phoenix. "Do you have a name?" "I will accept the name you choose." I thought about it for a second, and a name popped into my mind. Lissa. After my mother. I love it. Chapter 12. Gabriel and I tried to spend more time together before his coronation, which was later tonight. Lissa sometimes stayed around us, but she usually spent her time hunting or flying around. Apparently, being bonded didn't mean she had to be near me constantly. Right now, Gabriel and I are sitting together in our room, enjoying some quiet moments. When we pulled apart from talking and laughing, I smiled and lay my head on his chest while he stroked my hair. "I can get used to this," I said, and he laughed. "Me too, Lily." He began calling me Lily about 4 days ago because, while on a walk, I spotted a lily and accidentally called it a tulip. He made fun of me, and the nickname stuck. Then my phone buzzed, and I looked to see a message from Valerie. "Get out of here so we can go shopping." I groaned. Valerie, Alexandria, and I were going dress shopping for the coronation tonight. I threw the phone down and went in search of my jacket and boots. Gabriel read the message and laughed. "Shut up, Gabriel. You're just lucky I'm going to surprise you, or I would just take you along." I said this while putting on my boots, then grabbed my car keys and headed for the door. "Have fun, Lily," he called, and without looking back, I waved my hand at him and slammed the door. When I got outside, I found Valerie and Alexandria waiting for me. Instead of stopping, I walked past, and they followed me to the garage. When we got inside, Valerie and Alexandria began walking towards Valerie's white 2013 Buick LaCrosse. I stopped and stared. "We are not taking that," I said, folding my arms. "Yes, we are." "Now come on," Valerie said. I was forced into this trip, and therefore I believe I can choose what we take, and I want to take my car, I said stubbornly, and we both looked at Alexandria. "Well, we've always ridden in your car, V, so I'm going with Tessa," she said. As she began to walk towards my car, Valerie followed, murmuring that there was no reason to waste gas in both cars. It took an hour to reach the nearest mall, and the time spent in silence made it feel even longer. Once inside, we searched for a dress shop, and that didn't take very long. We all split up and searched the area. After an hour of searching, we all found a dress. Valerie found a light blue, strapless, floor-length dress with gold lining around the chest area. Alexandria picked a knee-length, peach-colored dress that flared out on the bottom. Both dresses looked amazing on them. Finding my dress was a little harder. I tried on many dresses, but none felt right. Until I saw it. Near the back of the store was a knee-length dress that fit me just right. It was strapless, black, and had a brooch with the tree of life inside a circle on the belt. After dress shopping, we were on talking terms again, and Valerie had a crucial thing to say. Derek and I bonded. I almost swerved off the road, pulled onto the shoulder, and looked at her. "Are you serious?" "When?" "The night we were in Minneapolis. He took me to a fancy restaurant, and we stayed in a suite. It was so thoughtful. It just felt like the right time." Alexandria was squealing in the back seat. "Oh, can we see the mark?" The mark is what both mates give each other to show they truly belong together, and no one can remove it. If you try to mark someone other than your true mate, it could harm them. The mark depends on what pack you're in as well. Valerie pulled down the shoulder of the shirt, and right on the collarbone was a moon symbolizing the blood moon pack. Alexandria and I screamed and hugged her. All the way back, we discussed marks. By the time we got home, it was 2 hours till the ceremony, so we went our separate ways to get ready. I put on the dress and some black wedges, styled my hair a little curly, and pulled it up into a high ponytail. I wouldn't see Gabriel until the ceremony, so I went in search of styles. I knocked on his door and walked in after I heard him say enter. He and some friends he had made had gone to town and looked for items to put in his room. Along with clothes, he got a tuxedo, but he was only wearing the white button-up shirt, the jacket, and trousers, along with some boots. It looked really nice on him. He turned to say hello and did a double take. "Wow, Tuss. You look beautiful," he said, making me blush. "Thanks. You look great too." He came and hugged me. "You ready to head out there?" The ceremony was taking place outside the pack house, as nearly half of the pack was expected to attend. Sure. As we headed for the stairs, we met up with our friends and made our way towards the pack house. Lissa was waiting for us at the front door. "Hello, friends." "Hey, Lissa," I said, and turned towards the others. She said, "Hey." They all said hi, and we headed for the ceremony. I wouldn't be able to talk to Gabriel until after the ceremony, so I mingled with some of the pack members and got to know many of them. When the ceremony was about to begin, I went and found the others, and we stood together at the front. Usually, when a new alpha is brought in, they are inducted by the previous alpha. Since the current alpha was gone and Gabriel's dad was back in Europe, the old beta had to do it. It was all pretty simple. He vowed to protect and lead the pack and cut himself with a dagger, letting a drop of blood fall to the earth, symbolizing his tie to the pack grounds. "If you have a mate and beta, I would like for them to step up here," Adrian, the old beta, said. Since beginning the ceremony, Gabriel finally looked at me. His eyes looked over my body, and for a split second, they turned color and he smirked. I walked with Damon up to Gabriel, and we each stood on either side of him. "May I present your new alphas and beta?" Everyone cheered, and I smiled. When we were all done doing vows, the crowd dispersed and Damon went in search of Alexandria. Gabriel turned to me. "I love that dress," he said, and kissed me gently. I pulled back and smiled. "I'm glad you do," I said, and went in search of our friends. The after-party lasted way into the night, and everyone began to head home. Gabriel and I walked to our room and closed the door behind us. Instead of the playful chaos from before, this time we talked about what the future would look like now that he was alpha and I was at his side. It felt special, like we had stepped into a new chapter of our lives together. We sat together until we grew tired, and before long, we both drifted off to sleep, knowing that from this night forward, we were truly bonded forever. Chapter 13. When I woke up the next morning, I was so sore. I groaned and turned my head to look at Gabriel. He was still asleep. The sunlight filtering through the windows showed the brown highlights in his dark hair. I ran my finger along his cheek, and he twitched and opened his eyes. "Morning, handsome," I said while smiling. "Morning, gorgeous," he said, and I lay my head on his chest, and he began stroking my hair. "Don't you have alpha duties to attend to?" I asked as I looked up at him. "Yeah," he gave me a devilish grin, "but they can wait." I squealed when he turned and leaned over me. It was noon by the time we got dressed and joined the others downstairs. They were all in the living room, and Styles, Derek, and Damon were playing some fighting game on the Xbox One. Valerie and Alexandria were watching from the couch. Gabriel cleared his throat, and everyone turned to look at him. Derek took the distraction and killed the other two. "Yes," he said, and Damon and Styles scowled at him. As Gabriel and I walked towards them, they all stood up and bowed their heads. "Is there room for one more?" Gabriel asked. They looked up and had big grins on their faces. They laughed and began to hook up a fourth controller while I joined the others on the couch. Valerie leaned over. "Did you guys have fun last night?" she whispered, but everyone still heard and looked at me. Gabriel had a smirk on his face, and I shot daggers at him. "Yeah." I turned a deep red because I didn't know how to put it into words. Valerie reached over and pulled my jacket sleeve down, exposing the mark. Everyone crowded around to get a look, even Gabriel. "Why is it a black and red paw?" Damon asked. "It's originally supposed to be black and white, with the white symbolizing the pattern on guardian wolves. The part that is supposed to be white is red because it shows I'm part of the Blood Moon Pack and bonded to a werewolf that isn't a guardian wolf," I looked around the group, and everyone was staring open-mouthed at my explanation. After a couple of hours of playing video games and talking about the mark, I followed Gabriel to his office. Someone had built a roost for Lissa outside the office window, along with a roof. Lissa was perched on the roost and bowed her head to us. "Alphas," she said, and I relayed it back to Gabriel. "Alpha. That's not something I ever thought I'd be called." I looked at Gabriel. He looked like he was going to say something, but the phone began to ring. He gave me one last look and then turned towards the phone to answer it. "Hello?" "Thank you, sir." I could hear what was being said on the other end. Then the mystery person said something, and Gabriel looked at me with worried eyes. My heart began to pound. "No, sir, can't say I've seen her. You know rogues, they lie. Can you give me a description of both of her forms?" Gabriel got a pen and paper and began writing down random things. "Okay. I will notify you if we have any sightings of her. Let me schedule when he can come by. Bye." He hung up, sat in his chair, and put his hand over his eyes. I got up and sat on the edge of his desk. "Who is that?" "Alpha Michael. The rogues that attacked us and escaped went to him and told him they saw you. He wanted to know if it was true." "Who is he sending?" "His beta. He didn't believe me and he's coming in 2 days. First day as an alpha and I might already have an enemy. Michael is the most dangerous alpha ever. He's big and fast. It's even been said his wolf is as black as ink, and in wolf and human form, his eyes are a crimson red." I froze. Red eyes surrounded by fire. "He killed my family." "No," I whispered. Gabriel called my name, but I couldn't hear him. I touched my scar and felt a tear slide down my cheeks. I ran out of the room and then the house and shifted just outside the door. Unsuspecting people yelped and leaped out of the way. I didn't know where I was going and I didn't care. I could escape my past, but it has caught up with me. Chapter 14. I don't know how long I ran. At some point in the run, my wolf had taken over and I gladly let her have at it. We were now in a small clearing and out of Blood Moon territory. I shifted and began to walk around. As I was walking, a tree caught my eye. I turned and walked towards it. As I got closer, a black mark on the tree made me stumble back and choke on a sob. I had run to my old house. Apparently, Alpha Michael had tried to get rid of the evidence, but missed this tree. Slowly, I stood up and walked to the tree. I touched the burn mark. Then someone from behind me spoke. "Looks like our little guardian wolf has returned." I whirled and faced the newcomer. He was tall with long, blonde hair and dark brown eyes. He had the beginning of a beard and stood with his arms crossed over his muscular chest and a smirk on his face. I gasped and touched my scar. I stammered in a whisper. He chuckled. "Ah, so you do remember. Well," the smirk dropped. "I'm here to finish the job." He jumped and shifted into a light brown wolf and charged at me. I jumped to the side and narrowly missed his snapping teeth. I shifted and we began to circle each other. We lunged at the same time and went tumbling. He got a hold of my back and twisted. I cried out in pain and fell, loosening his hold, and limped away. We growled and attacked again. This time, I moved to the side and pushed him into a tree. He yelped and lay there. I shifted when he did and walked cautiously towards him. He was breathing hard and was struggling to get up. Then he began to laugh. "It's not going to matter. We know that the Blood Moon Alpha is keeping you there. If you don't give yourself up in 3 weeks' time, there is going to be a war. We have rogues and 2 other packs on our side. Blood Moon won't stand a chance." He began laughing hysterically, and I slammed him back against the tree. That is no way to speak to an alpha. His eyes widened just before he went still. I turned to the surrounding woods. "Tell Alpha Michael that if it's a war he wants, then it's a war he gets. Tell him no one threatens my pack." The bushes rustled as the wolf hiding there ran to relay my message to Alpha Michael. I turned back to the wolf. Something was glinting around his neck, and I bent down and yanked it off. It was a necklace. The pendant was made of gold with a leaf pattern around the edges and featured a large ruby in the center. The chain was sterling silver. It was my father's. My mother had given it to him for an anniversary gift. I clutched it to my chest. "Mine," I whispered and shifted. I needed to tell Gabriel about the looming war. As I got to the edge of the clearing, I turned and looked at it one more time. Then I let out a long, mournful howl before I began the journey home. When I got back, I found everyone in the living room with Gabriel pacing frantically. When he saw me, he ran and engulfed me in a hug. He took in my scent, no doubt to calm his wolf. Everyone crowded around me. "Where were you?" Styles yelled, and then he saw the necklace around my neck. He backed up, sat in the armchair, and put his face in his hands. I couldn't deal with him right now. "Gabriel, Alpha Michael is going to send an army here in 3 weeks' time." Gabriel didn't look very worried about it. He turned and motioned for Damon and Alexandria to come up. "Alexandria, I know you wanted to wait for your birthday to be turned, but if Michael does attack, I would like to know that you can defend yourself and you can master your wolf. Since your birthday is in 2 weeks, will you be willing to be turned tonight?" Alex looked at Damon, who nodded. She then turned back to Gabriel. "I'll do it. Tessa, in order for me to do it, it will have to be done on a full blood moon, which is in 2 weeks. A guardian wolf can turn someone at any time. Can you turn her?" I was stunned. "Gabriel, if I turn her, she will be more guardian wolf than an actual werewolf, and they are harder to control." "I can control it," Alex said, stepping from Damon's grasp. "Then it's settled. Tonight at midnight, you will turn her, and you and Styles can help her master being a guardian wolf." With that, he turned to begin preparations for tonight. Styles had left during the conversation, so I decided to call Gabriel's dad. The call didn't last long. We said hello and caught up on the latest developments. When I told him about the upcoming war and who was against us, he promised to send enough of his best fighters to help out. With nothing else to do but wait for tonight, I decided to take a nap till it was time for me to create another guardian wolf. Chapter 15. I don't know how long I was asleep before I felt the bed dip next to me. I groggily rolled over and came face to face with a smiling Gabriel. I don't know how long we lay there until he spoke. "Where did you run off to?" My smile fell, and I rolled onto my back and looked at the ceiling. My wolf took over, and we ran to my old house. The wolf that gave me the scar attacked me there, but I defeated him. I heard a low growl and looked over at Gabriel. "Did he hurt you?" His tone was serious. I laughed lightly, trying to ease his worry. "Of course not. You're talking to a powerful wolf here. No one can defeat me." He raised an eyebrow at me. "Is that a challenge?" He grabbed me and pulled me underneath him. I looked him squarely in the eyes, yes. Then I pulled his face to mine in a kiss. All too soon, he pulled away. "Why haven't you and Styles tried to create guardian wolves?" I sighed. "Because when you turn a human into a guardian wolf, the wolf inside is wilder than a born one, and this makes them tougher to handle. I've seen it happen before. My dad had a best friend who was human. One day a grizzly bear came out of nowhere and attacked them. Before my dad killed it, it had injured his friend badly. I took a deep breath before continuing. The only way to save him was to turn him, and that's just what my dad did." He was quiet for a second. "What happened?" he asked softly. His wolf side was too wild and took over. After who knows how long of trying to get him to calm down, my dad had to stop him permanently. He was distant for weeks. I could feel a tear falling down my cheek and quickly wiped it away. Gabriel grabbed my wrists gently and kissed my forehead. "Alex is strong. She'll make it." I smiled, knowing he was right. "Now come on, let's get ready." Since I would be in wolf form for a while, I planned to wear the clothes I had on and put on a robe when I needed to be human. They had transformed the backyard into a type of ceremonial setting. There were torches scattered around, casting an eerie glow over the area, and a stage stood in the center. Apparently, they thought this would be like their original turning ceremonies. I chuckled at this. Gabriel, Valerie, Damon, Derek, Styles, and Alexandria joined me in looking at the stage. Alex was wearing a red robe, while everyone else was dressed in jeans and t-shirts. Styles seemed really upset about something, and I went over to his side and squeezed his hand. He gave me a half smile and then turned away. I would ask him what was wrong later. Currently, pack members were filing in and taking their seats. With a deep breath, Gabriel, Alex, and I walked up onto the stage. "Pack members, Gabriel's voice rang through the crowd, and everyone fell quiet. I have called you here for two things. First off, in 3 weeks, our pack will be in battle against Alpha Michael and 2 other packs. He also has rogues with him. The crowd began to murmur things to each other, but fell silent when Gabriel put his hand up. I am not asking all of you to fight, but if you are willing, then go see my beta after the ceremony. Training will start tomorrow. The second reason is that we plan on adding a new wolf to the pack. Excitement raced through the crowd. Alexandria Ortiz will be turned into a guardian with the help of Alpha Tessa. We don't know how her new wolf will react, so I will need all of you to move back. Everyone hurriedly moved back. Gabriel turned to me, Tessa, time to shift. With that, he went and joined the others. I took a deep breath and turned into my black and white wolf. People gasped even though my wolf wasn't that special. Alex kneeled, whispered a prayer, and walked up to me with courage. Then I bit into her shoulder. Her piercing scream cut through the silence, and everyone gasped. I stepped back, afraid I had just hurt my friend. Then her bones began to break and reshape. I could hear every change and see the muscle growing under her skin. Her body twisted, reshaping into something new. Soon, auburn fur sprouted across her body, her face elongated into that of a wolf, and her hands and feet turned to paws. At last, she stood before us as a large auburn wolf with a white vine pattern along her body. I went and nuzzled the side of her face. She whimpered and turned away. Then she slowly stood up and shook her head side to side, causing her to stumble. Alex. I used our new mind link to try to connect with her. She was startled and turned towards me. I met her hazel eyes, but darker ones quickly replaced them. She bared her teeth at me and advanced. Alex, it's me, Tessa. You need to fight her, fight your wolf. She stopped, trembling, and I could tell she was struggling. Her eyes flickered between hazel and dark. Finally, her eyes stayed there beautiful hazel, and I heard Alexandria's voice come to me quietly through the link, Tessa? Shifting is awful. I laughed at her through the link, and she came toward me, brushing her head under mine. I turned to the pack and howled. Alex soon joined me, and the pack cheered. Gabriel and the others joined us on stage. Pack members, I introduce Alexandria, our newest member. Gabriel yelled while smiling, and everyone cheered louder and came up to the stage to welcome our new guardian wolf. Chapter 16. Lissa. I could hear the wolves howling as they introduced Alexandria to the pack as one of their own. I didn't go because being around them reminded me that there are only 2 of my kind left, and all I know of Dante is that an alpha captured him and his bond partner, and Dante is being tortured. I can feel his pain, and that is why I am not around Tessa very often. She will see the pain on my face. Suddenly, a pain raced through my back, and I let out a distress call and landed ungracefully on the ground. Dante. I sent out to him through our bond. But from the other end of the bond one felt freedom. Dante escaped. But he's weak, and I need to find him. I flew up to a branch in the oldest tree I could find and began to concentrate. Slowly, I felt myself flying through the woods, and I suddenly stopped. I looked down and saw 3 people, all dirty and frail-looking, running away from something. One of them, a girl, was carrying something. It was dirty and very flimsy. I saw a flicker of a flame and knew it was Dante. I immediately snapped into my own body and took off. I had to save him. They were just on the other side of the neighboring pack's territory. This meant that they escaped from Alpha Michael. I was furious. My other half was being tortured by the same Alpha who wants to hurt my bond partner. This made my blue flames burn brighter, and I flew faster. Then I came up on the pack and saw Tessa shift and hug Gabriel. She looked up at me and gave me a look that asked if I was okay. I shook my head and took off again. She would let me go if she knew. I came up on the neighboring pack's territory and called out to Dante. Lissa? That was all I got. When I finally found them, they were catching their breath. I cawed and landed next to them. The people, who I could now tell were werewolves, looked wary of me, but when Dante answered my caw, they knew I wasn't a threat. There is one thing not very many people know about phoenixes. When we are near our other half, we can shift. I concentrated on my human self, and I began to feel my body change. Soon, I was standing upright in my humanoid form. I saw that Dante had shifted, and in his place was a red-haired man with a handsome face, amber eyes, and a muscled body that showed he had endured much. I shook the image out of my head and turned to the oldest person in the group, a man with peppered hair and a frail body. What happened? His voice was hoarse. Alpha Michael raided our pack. We were rogues trying to make a life. He killed many of our pack members and kept us for information. He turned to look at Dante, who was leaning against a tree with his eyes closed. His wounds were already healing. He killed his bond partner. He was our leader. He tortured Dante and others because he believed they had intel on the guardian wolf. Michael executed our leader in anger. Dante hasn't been the same. Rage welled up in me, and I wanted to make Michael pay for what he'd done to my other half. Rustling in the bushes made me think I'd have a chance to strike back. 9 wolves stepped out, their fangs bared. The 3 rogues cowered together. I felt someone step beside me and turned to look at Dante. "Let's deal with them," he said in a low voice. I smiled. "It will be my pleasure." Together, we shifted into our phoenix forms and our flames braided into tendrils of blue and orange. We can control fire, and together we used those tendrils to disorient and drive the attackers back. While the flames distracted them, Dante and I took to the air and struck from above. The fight didn't last long. The attackers were overwhelmed and fled or were subdued. I shifted and turned to the rogues. "This pack is small and I need to get you to my pack. Can you shift?" They nodded. "Good. Follow me and be silent." We all shifted and took off, silently making our way to Blood Moon territory. I sent Tessa a message telling her to meet us at the territory's edge, and when we burst through the trees, Tessa and those closest to her were waiting. Not wanting them to retaliate against the rogues, I shifted, earning a few surprised gasps, and walked up to Tessa. "Don't hurt them. They were kidnapped by Michael and tortured." Dante shifted and stood next to me. Tessa and Gabriel looked the rogues over. "Well, guys," Tessa said to the rogues, "you have some explaining to do. And welcome to the Blood Moon Pack." Chapter 17. It took some convincing, but we eventually managed to get Alexandria to shift back. Everyone who showed up came and gave her hugs, welcoming her with open arms. "You did well." I turned to see Gabriel walking towards me. I smiled and gave him a gentle kiss. All part of being an alpha. We stared at one another until I heard the sound of wings. I looked up and saw Lissa fly over us. She looked distressed, but when I tried to ask what was wrong, she just shook her head and flew away. "What's wrong?" Gabriel asked, sounding concerned. I don't know," I answered honestly. Lissa's actions had me worried that something was terribly wrong. But right now, I needed to deal with the rest of the pack. We were going to have a party later tonight to help Alex get used to her new form, so our little group decided to go for a run around the territory until an hour before the celebration. We let everyone finish their congratulations, and then Gabriel, Alexandria, Damon, Derek, Valerie, and a distant-looking Styles, along with me, shifted and headed into the woods. We got to the very edge of the territory when Lissa called out to me, "Meet me at the neighboring pack territory quick." I immediately changed course and headed to the Black Diamond pack border, where I waited for Lissa. The others stopped and seemed a little nervous about the whole thing. Then Lissa came through the trees, followed by 3 wolves and another phoenix. To say I was surprised when she turned into a human is an understatement. She had long blue hair, purple eyes, and a lean build. The other phoenix shifted too and stood by her side. He looked strong, but my focus stayed on Gabriel. "Don't hurt them," Lissa said. "They were captured and mistreated by Michael and have information you might want to hear." I studied Lissa for a while and looked at the rogues. Their human forms were thin and dirty, and they bore wounds that appeared to be recent. Gabriel was unsure about them, but I ignored his hesitation and welcomed them to the pack. Then I noticed Styles staring at the youngest girl in the group. She was about our age, with long auburn hair that looked unkempt from captivity and forest green eyes. I turned and looked back at Styles and raised an eyebrow. He looked at me, and all I got from him was one word, mate. I smiled and looked back at the girl. She was staring at Styles, but when she saw me watching, she quickly looked away. I walked over to her. "What's your name?" Rachel. I held my hand out to Rachel. Come on. She gave me a confused look but took my hand anyway. I led her over to Styles, who looked really nervous. I took his hand and placed hers in his. Rachel, Styles. Styles, Rachel. Hi. That was all Styles could stammer out, but Rachel surprised him by moving closer to his side and slipping his arm around her shoulders. He froze for a second, but then relaxed and held her close with a small smile. Alex and Valerie squealed in excitement, and the guys just grinned. I clasped my hands together and smiled. Then I turned to the other rogues. Let's get you guys some food and new clothes. You can rest tonight, and tomorrow you can tell us what you know. They nodded, and we all shifted and headed back to the pack house. All the way there, Rachel stayed right next to Styles, and I knew he wouldn't have it any other way. Chapter 18. After a hearty meal, we bid the rogues goodnight, and we all headed to bed. Rachel went with Styles, and I couldn't help but smile at their bond. Gabriel came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. He leaned in and kissed my neck. What are you smiling at? He whispered. Rachel and Styles. They just met, and already they're happy, I said, and we both laughed. I turned and kissed him on the cheek. Come on, let's go to bed. I nudged him toward the stairs. He grinned and followed. When we reached the floor, he scooped me up playfully and carried me to the bedroom. I laughed and lay back on the bed while he smiled down at me. We fell asleep close together, and when I woke the next morning, Gabriel was still sleeping. I rested my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. A knock sounded at the door, and Gabriel sat up to answer. I pulled the blanket around me and laughed at how quickly he was alert now. He gave the knocker permission to come in. Valerie came through the door in jeans and a tank top. Get dressed and come downstairs. It's time for some war planning, she said with a wink, then left the room. Let's go. He kissed me before heading to the bathroom to shower. After we were both cleaned up and dressed, we headed to the kitchen. Our friends and the rogues were sitting around the big island, eating bacon and eggs. Rachel and Styles were together in a corner. She sat close to him, and they whispered and laughed. I smiled and piled my plate with eggs, bacon, and a biscuit with gravy. After breakfast, we moved to the living room, and the mood turned serious. Okay, why don't you tell us what you know? Gabriel asked, slipping into alpha mode. The rogues nodded, and the older man began. Michael has gathered the Raven Pack on his side. The Raven Pack is known as the most brutal pack in America when it comes to war. He has also gathered both types of rogues, the ones who are fully wolf and the ones like us. I heard there were about 50 of them. He also has a bear shifter and a mountain lion shifter. The room grew tense at that. What's wrong? I asked. Gabriel turned to me. These two shifters are very dangerous. Bear shifters are massive and don't show mercy. They're hard to take down, and many wolves die fighting them. Mountain lion shifters are also incredibly dangerous, fast, strong, and prone to torturing their victims. My wolf growled at the mention of them. We would definitely need reinforcements. So what do? We make a battle plan and train those who can fight. Valerie crossed her arms, ready as ever. Then it's settled. I'll gather the pack members who will fight. Damon and Derek will scout for the best place to engage. Valerie and Alex will help prepare supplies and defenses. Got it. Everyone nodded and began to disperse, carrying out their tasks. A knock sounded at the door, and I went to answer it. Alpha Benjamin. I exclaimed and hugged Gabriel's father as he stepped inside. It is good to see you, Tessa. Where is Gabriel? I led him to the living room, where Gabriel greeted him warmly. Tessa told me that Alpha Michael has threatened you with war, Benjamin said. Yes, he has. Well, I've brought 100 of my best fighters to help. We'll show Michael what happens when you mess with Blood Moon. When Alpha Benjamin omitted the title in front of Michael's name, it made his opinion clear. Gabriel smiled. Let's do this. Chapter 19. Later that day, Gabriel gathered the pack members who were going to fight and brought them to the training field. It turned out that everyone wanted to take part in the battle. After some discussion, we decided to have some of the older wolves stay and guard the houses and the children. Many complained, but eventually Gabriel silenced them. Once everyone was sorted, the training began. We started with one-on-one combat. I worked with Alex and Styles because we wouldn't get any practice with the regular wolves. So far, Alex had improved dramatically, and whatever Styles had done while living in the woods had made him a great fighter. We were sore after that, but we still stayed up most of the night looking over the territory and planning what type of battle strategy to use. Valerie threw her hands in the air. I think we should do a front attack. Everyone should just run at them head-on and Michael won't know what hit him. Maybe, but if he does expect it, we could lose many wolves. I say ambush. We will have a few wolves in the front, a few in the back, and some on both sides so they can be surrounded. If we have to, we can have some in the trees with guns in case something goes wrong. Gabriel's voice had a finality to it that no one wanted to question except me. What if he has both of those plans in mind? Then we really will lose people. And what do you suppose we do, love? I went blank for a second. Then I looked at the map and an idea came to me. You see this meadow right here? I pointed to a large circle near the northern boundary. I think that if we can get them into this clearing, we can use both tactics and one more thing, fire. If we can get all of Michael's men in that circle, we can light up the surrounding area and have them trapped inside. It might make it easier to ambush, and as soon as that fire goes out, the smoke will help blind them long enough for us to attack and take out a lot of their main warriors. They all nodded, and it was settled. Lissa and Dante would set the edge of the meadow on fire. When there was enough smoke in the air, they would put it out, and we would ambush Michael from all sides and take them by surprise. We still needed a lot of training, so we all went to bed. When I woke up, Gabriel was already gone, so I just got dressed in gray sweats and a t-shirt and headed down to breakfast. Valerie, Alex, and Rachel were the only ones in the kitchen. The boys went to check out the meadow. Valerie didn't even look up when she said it. I was curious about the meadow, so I grabbed a couple of sausages and raced out the door. The others were confused for a second, but eventually they followed me. We shifted, and I ate my sausages on the run. Alex ran up next to me since she was the only one who could keep pace with me, so I slowed down so that Valerie could keep up with us. The sound of wings brought my eyes to the sky, and I saw Dante and Lissa flying high above us. When we reached the meadow, we all shifted and joined the boys in the center. Gabriel looked up, but then went back to studying the meadow. What are you doing? I asked. For your information, I am seeing how big this meadow is. He went back to looking around, and I looked at the other three, who were sitting on the ground, looking bored. I don't even know why he needed us for this. Styles was pulling grass up as he talked, but immediately stopped when Rachel sat next to him. The others joined their mates, and I walked up to Gabriel and put my hand on his shoulder. Come on. We have a week and a half before Michael comes, and the pack still needs more one-on-one combat. He looked around one more time. I have the measurements. We can leave now. He shifted and ran into the woods. I rolled my eyes, turned, and ran after him. The first sighting of Michael's army came a week later. A scout for a nearby pack had seen them and told his alpha, who in turn told Gabriel. With everyone trained, all we had to do was lead the army into the meadow. That would be my job. I would wait in the center of the meadow, and when Michael and his army were inside, I would run out of the circle, and Dante and Lissa would light the ground around the meadow on fire. Then we would attack. Today was the day. Michael was 10 miles away from our border, and we needed to get in position. My heart was pounding, and I was nervous. What if it doesn't work and our pack falls apart because of me? Gabriel walked in and could see the distress on my face. He wrapped me in his arms and reassured me over and over again. We sat like that until Valerie came in and told us it was time to go. We met the pack outside, and Gabriel had them quiet down. Today someone has threatened a pack member, and when someone messes with one of us, they mess with us all. Today we fight to defend our pack, our family, and show them what happens when you mess with Blood Moon. Everyone cheered, and those in wolf form howled in response. Let's go. Gabriel shifted, and those joining us raced after him. I paced in the center of the meadow. Now and then, I'd look over to the spot Gabriel was hiding and feel a bit better. Dante and Lissa were hidden in the trees, out of view. Everyone else was hidden at different points around the meadow. The first sign of Michael was the sound of growling and branches snapping. Then, Off to my right, a large black wolf emerged from the shadows, and when he looked at me, his eyes glowed a blood-red color. "Ah, Tessa, come to give yourself up." His voice echoed in my mind, and I bared my teeth. Not quite. I growled and turned, racing into the trees. I heard him and his army give chase, but before they reached me, the meadow went up in flames. Chapter 20. Some of the wolves growled as the flames circled them. We waited, ready to strike once the flames died down into smoke. Through the fire, I could see Michael waiting calmly, as if he had planned for this too. Then the flames went out. Blood Moon charged into the confused wolves and began to fight. Michael had disappeared when the smoke thickened, and I soon found myself facing a massive brown she-wolf who used her weight to overpower me. She bit me a few times before I managed to grab her by the neck and bring her down. I looked around and saw my friends locked in their own battles. Before I could help them, a bear shifter stepped into my path. He was much larger than I was, but I decided to keep him distracted until others could help. "Why are you with Michael? What has he offered you?" I asked as we circled. "He has my family in his dungeon. If I disobey, he will kill them." Something struck me. The rogues had never mentioned families in the dungeon. "Styles, ask Rachel if there were any families in the dungeon with them." His reply hit me hard. "Listen, Bear. Michael has already killed your family. They were in the dungeons, but he had them executed when they resisted." "You're lying." The bear roared and charged. I dodged his bite, but his claws raked across my side. Pain shot through me as I staggered back, barely holding my ground. My body healed slowly, but I knew I couldn't dodge another strike alone. Before he could attack again, 2 wolves barreled into him from the side. Styles and Alexandria stood protectively in front of me. The bear shifter roared again and charged, but together we avoided his blows. As my wounds closed, the 3 of us began circling him. He grew uneasy, outnumbered by guardian wolves. Then we attacked. Styles bit into his leg, Alex leapt onto his back, and I lunged from below. Our combined strength brought him down. I looked at the fallen shifter with sadness, knowing he had fought because of Michael's lies. With a heavy heart, I turned back to the battle. One by one, wolves fell around me. My fur was slick with blood, and still there was no sign of Michael. Then I saw him at the edge of the meadow, pacing, untouched by the chaos. Lowering my head, I bared my teeth and moved toward him. He stopped pacing and faced me. "Clever, using fire. I thought you'd fear it because of what happened to your parents. What happened to my family is in the past. But it's something you will answer for." I lunged, but he dodged easily. We circled, clashing in bursts of teeth and claws, each strike wearing us down. Finally, he rammed into me, shoving me into the woods. We grappled again and again, both growing exhausted. Michael wasn't a guardian wolf, but his strength as an alpha was undeniable. Just as I prepared for another attack, a flash of black and white burst through the trees. Styles slammed into Michael, sending him crashing into a tree. Styles stood beside me, his eyes blazing with vengeance. Gabriel, Derek, and Valerie appeared soon after, taking their places at our side. "The battle is over, Michael. Your forces are finished. It's time to surrender." Gabriel's voice was sharp with authority. Michael shifted into human form, tall with dark hair and red eyes, a twisted smile on his face. "It's not over until I say so. Claire." A massive mountain lion leapt from the shadows, straight at me. Gabriel and the others were too far to stop it. I braced myself, but Lissa shot out of the trees, throwing herself between us. The lion clamped its jaws on her neck, and both ignited in flames. When the fire burned out, the mountain lion was reduced to ashes, and Lissa lay on the ground, gravely wounded. "Lissa!" I screamed, racing to her side. Her hand trembled in mine. She gave me a weak smile despite the blood on her lips. "Don't worry, Tessa. I'll be okay." Her palm rested gently on my stomach. "They will be wonderful children." With that final smile, her hand went limp and her breath faded away. "No!" I cried, tears streaming as her body dissolved into flames. When the fire vanished, only a single blue feather remained. Dante swooped down, his grief plain in his eyes. He picked up the feather in his beak and flew away into the sky. I wiped my tears and turned back to the others. Derek restrained Michael, who only laughed bitterly. It's your fault she died. All your fault. No. She chose her sacrifice. You're the one who caused this. I turned to Styles. This is my brother. The only sibling you failed to kill. And he deserves justice. Styles met my eyes. I nodded. With a swift move, he ended Michael's life. Back in the meadow, Gabriel allowed the remaining enemy wolves to leave with their dead under one condition. They never returned to threaten us again. They agreed. We buried our fallen in the meadow, each with a marked grave to honor their sacrifice. Later, at the hospital, I learned that Lissa had been right. I was pregnant with twins. Even in our loss, new life was beginning, and I knew our pack would heal. Epilogue. 5 years later. Gabriel and I sat on a bench, watching our 2 kids play in the yard. Adam looked just like Gabriel, only with my eyes. He was busy racing cars with William, Valerie, and Derek's son, born 4 months after Adam. Our little girl, Rowan, was different, black hair, but eyes the vivid purple of a phoenix, just like Lissa. After some research, we discovered that when a phoenix dies, they have 2 choices. They can either be reborn from an egg and wait for their bond mate, which could take an eternity, or bond their phoenix essence to an unborn child. Lissa had chosen the latter, giving Rowan the power to control fire. Mommy, Daddy, watch. Rowan ran up, her small hand outstretched. She closed her eyes and focused hard. A red flame flickered to life in her palm, then she opened her eyes, grinning broadly. Good job, sweetheart. Can you make it go away? I asked. She gave a smug smile, closed her hand, and the flame vanished. Good job, Han. Why don't you go find Aunt Rachel and Uncle Styles? Gabriel suggested. Okay, Daddy. She darted off to find them. Alex and Damon had just returned from their honeymoon a week ago, while Valerie and Derek had been married for a year. Gabriel and I had married 6 months after the battle. I couldn't help but worry about Rowan. She was the only one of her kind. What if her power ever went out of control and no one could help her? Gabriel squeezed my hand, sensing my concern. She'll be fine. She has your strength. She'll control it, he said softly. I smiled. He always knew the right words. Styles appeared around the corner, carrying Rowan on his back, while Rachel followed, her swollen belly hinting at the new life growing inside her. I stood and hugged them both. Styles gently put Rowan down, and she ran off to join Adam and William. Great kid. She acts just like you, Tess, Styles said with a grin. I laughed, nudging him lightly. You know, you look better without that scar. The day after the battle, my scar had disappeared. I realized then that I could finally trust people again. As my walls crumbled, so did the mark of my past. I smiled at Gabriel. Come on, Valerie is waiting for us. She hates it when we're late. Today was Derek's birthday, and she'd insisted we arrive on time to surprise him after his patrol. Gabriel laughed. Come on, kids. Time for a party. The little ones raced ahead, and I rested my head on Gabriel's shoulder. I was exactly where I wanted to be. Safe, loved, and surrounded by family.